Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Pruitt. I just want to jump in to one of the areas that you've said is a principal part of one of your achievements. In your opening statement, you said that as Attorney General, you confronted with an important water quality issue on the scenic Illinois River about the high phosphorus levels that were causing a range of problems that come from the manure, principally from farm animals. And you go on to state that this was a historic agreement to clean up the river. It was in your opening statement and a number of the other documents that you provided. You also described the agreement with Arkansas as an important agreement to reduce the pollution, again, that was a result from poultry growers. And I'm quoting you actually directly, that was occurring as a result of pollution from poultry growers. You familiar with this?
Yes, also discharge from municipalities in northwest Arkansas as well.
I think that's an important point, yes.
Yeah.
I would like to ask you just some questions about this, but I think it's important. I really dug into this and did some research. Can you hold this up? I just want to go through my colleagues what the fact pattern is that led to this moment where you intervened. And it really starts with a Supreme Court decision way back in 1992, Arkansas versus Oklahoma. I imagine you're familiar with the Supreme Court decision that resolved the lawsuit between those two states that held that basically upriver states, such as Arkansas, must comply with water quality standards that are adopted by downriver states and then approved by the EPA. You're familiar with that?
I'm familiar with the litigation, yeah.
So after that Supreme Court decision, effective July 1st, 2002, Oklahoma actually did adopt a .037 water quality standard for phosphorus. And importantly, they gave a decade, 10-year phase-in period before full compliance was required. And then in 2003, your predecessor, Drew Edmondson, negotiated an agreement with Arkansas, which I've read, called the Statement of Joint Principles and Actions. Mr. Chair, I'd like to enter that for the record.
Without objection.
And then in 2003, to give more teeth to this goes to what you were saying about municipalities, it created phosphorus limits for municipal discharges. And that 2003 agreement, also that I've read through, also states that Oklahoma will reevaluate the .037 criteria for total phosphorus in Oklahoma's rivers by 2012. And then, this is the big part, in accordance with the instructions, the mandates of the Supreme Court, the EPA gave its approval to Oklahoma's .037 phosphorus standard. This was critical because under the Supreme Court decision, now Oklahoma had a water quality standard approved by the EPA that was now enforceable against upstates like Arkansas. Now, let's fast forward to April 2012. Oklahoma's Water Resources Board reviewed the best scientific information available in 2012. It reevaluated and reaffirmed the .037 phosphorus standard. Mr. Chair, I want to put in an executive summary of that review.
Without objection.
And then on June 30th, 2012, the 10-year phase-in, going back to the Supreme Court decision, the actions by Oklahoma, the 10-year phase-in period was completed in full compliance with the .037 became required. It became now what was required by the states. So just to recap all of this, because it's a lot, 20 years, Oklahoma's EPA approved a 0.37 phosphorus standard, more than 2 decades in the making. It had just been reaffirmed by the Oklahoma Water Resources Board, and then the 10-year compliance period phase-in had expired. And so when you said that you had entered into a second agreement with Arkansas that, in your words, was a historic agreement to clean up the river, that would reduce pollution from poultry growers, and this is the question that I have, sincerely, I pulled that 2000 agreement and read it, the 2013 agreement and read it, and it was stunning to see that it actually didn't take any steps to reduce pollution, but actually only proposes another unnecessary study and attempts to suspend compliance that was 2 decades in the making with the 0.37 standard. It suspended compliance for yet another 3 years of pollution. Isn't that true that that's what the agreement did?
It isn't, Senator. There was actually no enforcement of the .037 standard taking place on Arkansas's side of the border. The reason you referred to the Memorandum of Understanding, I actually have the second statement of principles here before me as well. That expired in 2012-13 timeframe, and that's what presented my office with the opportunity to go to Arkansas to ensure that the .037 standard would actually be enforced from a state law perspective on that side of the border. That had never taken place in history. You mentioned the EPA. There was no enforcement authority that had taken place on that phosphorus level by the EPA. Oklahoma had it, as you've indicated, as a standard, but it was not being enforced upstream in Arkansas, and that's what the agreement addressed.
Mr. Pruitt, so I don't have the seniority or the stature or the grandchildren of Senator Inhofe, so I can't go over my time. But I will say this, in my next round, I will go back into this because the documents don't seem consistent at all with what you're saying, and I'd like, in my next round of questioning, to go into a little bit deeper into this historic settlement. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Booker.